Hello, and topic of this lecture is one specific type of endgame, queen versus rook with no pawns on a board. But 20 or 30 years ago, this was known as very easily won position for white. And what you practically had to know this position that we have on a board now. And this position is known as easily won position and which is correct. The problem is to get this position. And why it is a problem? It is a problem became 20 years it wasn't this problem because we didn't have computers. And then computers became very tricky and they played with king and rook some very, very interesting defense. Well, it was known, the rule that was telling us here, as long as we separate king and a rook, with queen checks, we easily win the rook. And this is correct about 98% of the time. So computer found that 2%. That is very, very difficult to separate them. And well, some grandmasters found it laughable. And these experienced grandmasters, I don't want to put them down and name names, but they played against computers. And guess what? They couldn't win it at all. Not that they couldn't win in 50 moves, which is the regulation of in this type of position to win a game. No, they couldn't win it at all. And that's very interesting. Now, first, let's start with this position that was the key and the pilot position for this end game for many, many years. This position is absolutely resignable if it's black's move. So, but it's white's move. What white has to do is to get the same position that we have now with black to move. Now, let's see, what can white do to get it? For example, move queen a6 is not going to do anything because rook c7 check, and then you have to go back and start all over. King d6, even rook d7 check is possible here because taking will lead to a stalemate. And king b6 is also rook c6 check, and you're going to see it's a stalemate after taking. So what we have to do, we have to get this position. Now, this is this position probably like 100 years old. The way you get this position is check. Only move for black, then check. And here, black has practically two moves, king b8 or king a8, and they're absolutely the same because king a6, of course, will be checkmate in one. King b8 is the move. King a8 will lead to the same result. King b8. We give queen h8 check. Now imagine king was on a8 and we give queen h8 check. Black, he still has to go king a7 because rook b8 leads to checkmate in one after queen a1. And so on king b8, we give queen h8 check. King a7, we give queen a1 check. King b8, and now we go queen a5, and we got identical position that we started from. And now it's black's move, and black loses very quickly. Now, why? Rook has to leave the king. Well, rook a7 will lead to a checkmate in one move. And anywhere rook goes, either on b file or the seventh rank, black is going to lose the rook. For example, rook h7. Well, there is easy way to win the rook. Queen b4 check. King has to go to a file. King c8 will lead to a mate. And there is a stairs. Queen a3 check. King b8. Queen b2 check. Not queen b2 check, because there is queen c8. So we have to be little accurate. Queen b3 check. Now there is no king c8 because of queen g8. King a7. Now queen a2 check. And after king b8, queen b1 check. Attacking rook, winning the rook. And if black goes to b file, it's exactly the same thing. It's almost like a mirror image. So queen d8 check, king a7, queen e7 check, king b8, and again, queen a6 will be met by queen a3, king b8, queen f8 check, king a7. Now queen f7 check, king b8, queen g8 check, and queen h7 check, picking up the rook. So this was known, and what was known actually, that in all you have to know with the queen versus rook is this position, how this position is winning. And it's very easy to get this position. There were several games played with it in the tournaments, and white was, well, actually queen side with the queen versus rook was always successful this way, and there was never any problem until the computers came on. When computers came on, they challenged this assessment, and here is what happened. How do we corner the king? Well, let's see. Here we start playing. We're trying to get that position. And you see how black keeps king and queen together. And now black separates king and queen, king and the rook. And with checks, there is no way white can win the rook. So game goes on. And now what? If we try to do queen a7, rook is going to go to c6. King d5, rook goes to f6. Those are extremely precise moves. Any other squares with the rook will lose the rook. So how to win with white? Now rook a6. And to win with white, we have to go queen f8 check, queen f7 check, king c8, king d8 would have been the same. So king c8, queen e8, queen e7, rook b6, king c5, rook b7. So now we have to get the position that we started this lecture from with. King c7, queen a8. This is the key move. And we separated king and the rook again. Well, in this position, this is the only way that achieves what we want. And after rook b1, there is queen c6 check. You see, and queen d8. Black couldn't play queen b8 because of the same. You see, we did that before. Queen f7 check, and we're gonna eventually get the position with queen g8 check, and next move rook is lost because on king c7 queen h7, and on king a7 queen a2, and that's why on queen c6 check black has to go to d8. But now we give queen d5 check. Now this is very difficult for human to do unless they know the pattern. And after queen d5 check, black must return to the c file, because going to e file anywhere will lose right away. And queen goes to c file. Now queen f7, queen d8, now queen g8, and finally white won the rook. Now this is the pattern. Actually, it's a little confusing maybe if you go 1 or 2 or 3 times. Here, how you learn it. If you are really serious about learning it, in my opinion, there are better things to learn in chess to master the game of chess. But if you need to learn it and if you are very interested in learning it, there are a couple of ways. There is such a software that teaches you this. It's called tablebases. Tablebases are database of all the end games that contain 6 pieces or less. Every position that has, there is a table basis of 5 pieces and 6 pieces. This is within 5. Even 5-piece database can do that. We have only 4 pieces here. It shows every position with 5 pieces or less, how to play precisely without error. All computer programs, if you insert this software there, they play flawlessly. It doesn't matter what program it is. Ripka is not any better in doing it than any other, than Crafty or HiArcs or anything. They all do that. What does is not computer does the job. It's the database does the job. It's called Nalimov's, NaliMov, Nalimov's database, table basis of endgames. Well, this is very important to have, especially computer programs when they play some tournament. They have this installed into the program because in case some endgame like this happens, then they play flawlessly and virtually without spending any time. Any position with 5 pieces or less, computers play to the rest of the game with less than a second for remaining of the game. So if you need to learn, that's what you do. But basically how you memorize when you take endgames, any endgame position, for example, bishop and 2 pawns versus knight and 1 pawn, you have to know their patterns. There are rules. Computers have no rules. They have to calculate everything. If it's more than 5 or 6 pieces, we have rules and principles. Here, we know, besides, well, if I had to put 3 basic rules in playing king and queen versus king and rook, well, there will be same rules for a rook or for queen. So whatever rules will be for queen, the opposite rules will be for rook. For example, king and queen, you have to corner your opponent's king. You have to try to checkmate him, or separate king and rook, that with checks you can win the rook. And number three, you have to remember to avoid stalemating positions. Same thing for black. You don't go into the corner. You try not to separate your king and rook, and try to take advantage of any stalemate possibilities. Well, if you know these rules and you know basics, how to play these positions, basics I'm talking about, if you saw a little bit about in table bases, then you should have no problem playing this position. Although with a so minimal number of pieces, with 4 pieces on the board, this is by far the hardest endgame to play for either side. So that's all can be said about king versus rook position, and there is no more, there is nothing I can add to what I said, nor anyone else can add any more than that. This is completely exhausting observation or of king and queen versus king and rook. Thank you very much.